Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We are approaching the end of our Soundtrap project, and I wanted to sort of go over what our final steps were. So, obviously, initially, I recorded the harmony breakdown and just a scratch track for the vocal. And you might notice that those are at the top here, they're not there anymore. There's no more piano because we didn't use it. And I've re-recorded the vocals. You can see there's a lot of layers of vocals. So the first two, we have the lead double and the lead vocal, which is just the melody sung, and then panned hard right and panned hard left for that stereo effect. We've got a few different harmonies, which I'm gonna organize a little differently. So we've got a harmony in the second verse and the second chorus, and a harmony for the bridge, and then a different harmony coming in for the final chorus. Then there's the drums. So the drums, we have a few different layers. The initial drums, then Mary decided that she wanted to stack some extra drums, and then we have some different drums for the bridge. A lot of stuff going on there. We've got those synth pads that Tony had recorded, and then these other ones that he put in for the chorus, and then the bridge part there. We have the Rhodes, which goes throughout. It's sort of a keyboard sound. The bass going throughout. And then right here we have a bass fill. This was, so one thing that I did was I downloaded the song and sent the MP3 to the team and said, hey, do you have any mixing notes or anything you want added? And one of the things that Scott had said was, I think there should be a bass fill at the end of the song, right before the final chorus. And I was like, okay, cool. So I recorded a little bass fill, and I did the same thing that I did with the vocals, where I just played the same thing twice and did a hard pan. And one of them I gave like a fuzzy effect, and one of them's clean. So we'll see how it sounds. Then there's a lot of different guitar parts. So Scott was definitely going to town with the guitar. So as you can see, different parts. Sometimes there's just one, sometimes there's two, sometimes he layered things. I think he did a really good job with the guitar, and I'm really excited about how that turned out. I added a shaker at one point. So I was just feeling like, oh, this needs a little more percussion. So I just threw a shaker part. I used the loop features, and I searched for it within the loops and just found a shaker, and that worked well. Then the acoustic guitar. So I did a little bit of acoustic guitar strumming on my own, sort of in the similar vein of how I originally recorded it, and I put it pretty low in the mix. Then we have the tag vocal ending here, which is the very end of the song. We decided, since we did so many layers of instruments and got really heavy with the panning and the reverb and stuff like that, that to sort of bring it back to a very raw feel, which ultimately it's like a very emotional song. So bringing it back down to that, we almost thought of it sort of as a means of making it like someone is doing this song at like an open mic, where it's just, one person and their guitar. And I took a couple different takes of that. And so these two are muted, and this one here I liked, and I asked the team, like, hey, can you give a listen to those three different. I sort of sang it a different way each time, and let me know what you think. And then I did the same thing with the guitar at the end. One of Scott's pieces of feedback, before I had recorded this like double time dun chicka dun chicka dun chicka dun, sort of like upbeat country guitar for the very end, and Scott was like, it feels totally out of context, and it kind of throws things off, especially since there's sort of like a do halftime groove for the whole thing, for the guitar all of a sudden at the end to be double time. So I was like, okay, so let me try like a finger picking thing. And so I tried a few different guitar patterns, and those are what these are here, is these double time guitar, fast finger picking, strummed with a pick. I just labeled them based on how I played it, and I gave that feedback to the team, and I said, hey, which of these do you like best? And they were saying, oh, I like the fast finger picking the best. So I'm actually, before this is all said and done, I'm going to go in and delete these other tracks, just because there's no point in having them. I've got the Sound of the Sea, which was the effect that I had where it's just like waves, and I just wanted some of that during the bridge. You'll hear it. And then we've got Scott's guitar solo. And one cool thing that he did for the guitar solo is he wanted to add a little bit more to the beginning of it. I was like, Scott, I think the guitar solo needs to sort of like bleed in from the measure before, because he started it right on beat one. And I was like, I think it would sound cool if it led into it a little bit more. And so he added a little bit of an intro to it, and we just sort of cross-faded those two things so that they sort of seamlessly happen. So one goes in as the other comes out, and you can't even tell that it's two different things. And then he decided that he wanted to add a little bit more to the end of the guitar solo, and so this is where he actually plays harmony with himself on the guitar, which is a really cool thing, because obviously if he's playing guitar by himself, he can't play two lead lines at the same time. And just as I can practice singing harmonies with myself, Scott can practice playing harmonies with himself on the guitar. And so he created a harmony part, and you will hear that in the final steps. So this is where we're at. I have mixed it. One important thing when it comes to mixing is, one, it's good to get a bunch of people's feedback. So I sent it to the team and I said, hey, what do you think about the mix? Do you want to try anything new? Is there anything that you think is too high or too low? And one piece of feedback that Mary gave was, make sure that when you're doing the final mix, that you mix it with headphones and then also mix it without headphones. A lot of the balance will feel different in headphones rather than your computer speakers, because when you're wearing headphones, especially if you're wearing recording headphones, which is what I have, the bass is going to be more present and you're going to hear those things better, and everything's going to kind of wash out a little bit, and it's going to be mostly the higher end that comes out when you're listening through just computer speakers. But you have to keep in mind how people are going to be listening to the song. Some people might just listen to it on a phone. Some people might listen to it on headphones. Some people might listen to it on a set of speakers. And so because you have to keep in mind that all of these people are going to be listening to it in different ways, that you want to make sure it sounds good all those different ways. So when engineers are in the studio mixing things, they have their high-end, nice studio monitors and it sounds amazing, but they also have to listen to it on lower quality speakers and on car speakers and on computer speakers, because they want to make sure that it sounds good no matter what platform someone is listening to it on, no matter what, through what set of speakers. So they will listen to it on those and then adjust the mix accordingly and get sort of a well-rounded mix that's going to sound good on monitors, headphones, coming out of a phone speaker, coming out of computer speakers, coming out of studio headphones, coming out of cheaper headphones, whatever it might be. So that was the thing that I did, is when I listened to it, I went through multiple times and listened to it through the speakers on the headphones, through my headphones, and also through just the speakers on the computer to make sure I got that overall best mix. And now I'm going to download it. I'm feeling like this is done, and I'm really excited about sharing it with everyone. So saving it, then I'm gonna just have to wait for the program to finish processing it, and then I will hit download and send it off to people to listen to.
Eventually.
Let's have a conversation, folks.
Look out, Billboard.
It's the hit. I thought something that might be good to talk about is our takeaways. Like, what did we particularly, each one of us, learn while we did this?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I noticed is different. It was a different workflow than the way I usually work. Like, I usually start off with drums first, and then I'll layer on the bass and then kind of go on guitar, and I won't do vocals until the end. So it was pretty interesting to kind of build a song just with Spencer's vocal line first, and just kind of build around that and really build the theme. I thought that really kind of took the song in a different direction than it would have otherwise.
Is that your writing process too, where you'll generally start by writing percussive parts and then come up with a melody later?
No, oftentimes, like, I'll come up with a hook. Usually I'll come up with a hook, and then that'll be circulating in my brain for a bit, and then through that I'll come up with a rhythm, and then when it comes to actually laying it down on a DAW, at that point I'll start with drums, just out of habit. I think I don't necessarily feel like there's the rhythm.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just going to say, it's so interesting to me because I think that the four of us, each one of us, would say we compose differently.
Probably.
Yeah.
What would you start with, Mary?
I kind of hodgepodge, because I find if I do the same process, I just write the same song over and over again. So sometimes I start with words. A lot of times I just sit with my uke, or I'll go to a keyboard and just start playing some chords and see if it inspires any words. But it is almost 50-50 for me, because I get so bored with my own style that if I don't mix it up, it'll just like I'll get too in my own head.
Well, it's interesting because Tony and Mary probably compose more songs than, definitely way more than me, but I don't know, Spencer, how much time you do. But I do know that those Trash Cat albums have plenty of songwriting, and I know that Kuchani, so to me, it's like my process for sure is the music theorist in me comes out, and I'm either thinking about like the structure of the song or a technique that I kind of want to use that would be fun. Like, oh, this needs like a heavy metal fugue in the middle of this, or something totally stupid, or oh, I'm going to only use these 6 notes and make them weird ones. And then like, even with like, I'm all about the harmonic progression. I'm like, oh, I want to do something really cool harmonically here. And then I try to make melodies that go into it. And then I never do lyrics because I just personally don't. I should, but I don't. How about you, Spencer? What's your compositional kind of?
So I think I write a fair amount of songs. I play in a band. We just haven't recorded our stuff, so you just haven't heard it yet, Scott. And I also write some stuff on my own that sometimes I share, sometimes I don't share. And a lot of it recently has been starting with a concept. Like I'll get a lyrical concept, and I'll just start sort of singing that, and the melody kind of comes out of the words, and then the harmony just comes out of the melody, and then I think about an emotional feel that I want. So if I'm like, oh, I just want this to be like real heavy, just like smash, overdriven guitar, or oh, I want this to be a soft, somber piano ballad sort of feel. I just think about emotionally what I'm trying to express and go that way. When I have a lyrical idea, it definitely comes out that way, where I start with that lyrical idea and the melody comes out from that, and I usually get some sort of a hook from there, and then I start telling the story through the verses. And the other way that I've sometimes done, when I record music digitally or when I'm using my bass and my loop pedal, I will just sort of stack things and slowly kind of organically see where it goes. And with that, I might find a sound that I like, or I might have a little riff that I like, and I'll just start layering that stuff. And then I'll just be listening to it so much just from the process of recording it. And then from there, I'll often get ideas lyrically, because I'll end up unintentionally just creating some sort of tone. And I might be like, oh, this is a really like somber tone, or this is really hype and like upbeat. What could I create that would feel also hype and upbeat lyrically that would match this?
Right.
And that's sort of how my process tends to go.
And for this one specifically, was it driven by vocals or by the lyrics? And then after you put the piano part?
Yeah, so I wrote this on a guitar. I just sort of, like, we had that meeting that was like, who's got some time? And I was like, I do. And then I was like, like just sort of like humming away lyrically on my guitar. And so it was just thinking lyrically and then harmonically was just sort of coming up with the most kind of basic harmony that would match the melody that I had written well. So it was a lot more like lyric and story driven than musically driven.
What other things do we think that we might have that surprised us about this? I'll give you my example. Like listening back to the germ of the idea that you sent to us, like this song is very, very different. Like it seemed like it was an upbeat kind of country, like hopeful song, and I think we really brought out the pathos a lot more as it went on.
Yeah,
and those changes, but you know, it started out so different.
Definitely.
We can release both versions. You know, we'll release the music version and then
there's gonna be all the singles.
I'm ready for the dubstep remix.
The unplugged version, MTV Unplugged.
I've been listening to a lot of the Song Exploder podcast recently, and it is really interesting. Like I was listening to one by Arcade Fire, and they were talking about like, we went in the studio like again and again, and they played and they had recorded like 6 different versions of the same song, which I mean, I feel like most people, unless that's your job and you're like you're professional musician and some label is paying for your studio time or something, like you don't even have the option to do that most of the time. But I do think there is something really cool about realizing like that songs tend to like have their own life, and sometimes you just need to find it. Like, which sculptor is it who would be like, well, the form's already in the marble?
Oh yeah, was that Rodin or something like that, or?
Yeah, you know. So I think that there's something to that with music too. It's like it's the song's in there, and like you just need to be willing to experiment till you find something that feels about right.
You're essentially just like you're capturing the song in that moment in time, right? And it could be like a year from now we decide to remake it, and all of a sudden it goes in a completely different direction. So I think it's pretty interesting to capture songs that way.
I can't wait to hear other people cover our song. You know?
Oh yeah.
It's going to be awesome. With all that, I think that maybe now is a good opportunity. Let's play it. Let's play it in its entirety. Give people an opportunity to check it out.
Let's give it a listen, and then we'll shoot the music video.
Yeah, and then the music video. Thanks for watching all this, everyone.
Grown into this new perspective, grown into skin that feels like mine. I'm here with my dear new collective. I've been figuring it out a day at a time. You seem together at 16, so I felt broken in my age. I know my parents will miss me, but the sound check's over and it's time to go on stage. The ink is dry now, it's time to turn the page. Turned every dial on the mixer, no satisfaction at the tone. Rewrote the letter every evening, unsure I'd ever send it home. You seem together at 16, so I felt broken in my age. I know my parents will miss me, but the sound check's over and it's time to go on stage. The ink is dry now, it's time to turn the page. I'm my only storm to weather, some for now and some forever. Free of smudges, perhaps never. Day by day, know thyself better. You seemed together at 16, so I felt broken in my age. I know my parents will miss me. I know my parents will miss me. You seemed together at 16, so I felt broken in my age. I know my parents will miss me, but the sound check's over and it's time to go on stage. The ink is dry now, it's time to turn the page. The sound check's over and it's time to go on stage. The ink is dry now, it's time to turn the page.